You're tuned in to the Why Sound Works podcast, presented by Soundshock.
Have you ever wondered how an Owsla, Dimmock, Armada, and Big Beat Atlantic releasing producer approaches his productions and gets his professional sound? If so, you'll want to check out this episode. What's up, everyone? Welcome to episode number 2 of the Why Sound Works podcast. I'm going to be your host, Daniel, the founder of Soundshock. The Why Sound Works podcast is dedicated to helping you become a better music producer by exploring the music production process with professional music producers and industry professionals. In each episode, I chat with music producers from all over the world about the technical details of how they create their music, starting from the first MIDI note all the way to the mastering stage. This podcast is presented by SoundShockAudio.com, a site dedicated to the modern music producer where all your music production needs are met with free plugins, presets, samples, loops, contact instruments, as well as the most comprehensive music production tutorials online, all for free. In this episode, I'm going to be chatting with a very good friend of mine that I met in music production school around 4 years ago at San Francisco's Piermine Music Production School. Jameston Thieves is most known for his incredible sound design and his innovative and eclectic bass music productions. In the podcast, we like to do a little bit of joking around, but also hit on some very important topics that will be helpful for you in your music production journey. We go over why playing new instruments is the must for you guys, the importance of experimenting, excellent tips for creating your own sound, how to view the production process, how Jameston Thieves masters his own tracks to a professional level, why you should keep evolving as a producer, and so much more. This podcast runs for about an hour and 40 minutes and is pure gold as far as tips, tricks, and advice to help you in your musical productions, as well as the comedic value that it has. Now, if you guys want to hear a particular artist on the podcast, feel free to send me an email at daniel@soundshockaudio.com. That is daniel@soundshockaudio.com, and I will get in contact with this artist. Also, if you enjoyed the podcast, feel free to leave a comment and review on iTunes, as this will help boost the popularity of the podcast and more producers will be able to find this podcast and get value from it. So without further ado, let's get into the Jameston Thieves episode of Why Sound Works. So Jake, I want to give a big thank you for coming on the second episode of Why Sound Works.
Thank you for having me, Daniel. I'm just happy to be here, happy to be talking about sound, and let's get on into it, folks.
I have to ask, what is that you're speaking into right now? What's this effect you got going?
This is a standard condenser microphone. So, just because I don't want any haters, yes, I do have a second microphone hooked up to my Roland Space Echo from the 80s. And if you do hear any psychedelic clusters of auditory frequency emanating my voice and the surrounding bubble of somethingness, then you can phone it in. That Space Echo is plugged in.
I see. I just felt like I needed to have you clarify that because, someone could be listening and they could just think something's coming from outer space or something like that and just could completely freak out. So I'm protecting the viewers here, letting them know that it is in fact you with the Space Echo.
You know what they say. You don't keep crickets where there's nothing to eat crickets.
That made no sense at all.
Yeah, it did. I'll let the listeners there make their sense of it.
Okay, comment on this podcast if that joke made sense to any of you.
So Daniel, how'd you get into becoming a podcaster?
That's a very good question. Artists like you have inspired me to create podcasts, the podcast specifically for Why Sound Works, to really get into really what makes your productions work. So I really want to ask first, for everyone who doesn't know who Jameston Thieves is, how did you start the project?
The project was just me learning how to make, moombahton and dubstep at first. So I was just putting the stuff that I made that I was proud of up online, and I don't know, things just sort of started happening from there. I don't know.
So why moombahton? Was that just kind of the sound at the time? And when was this? Like 2010, 2008?
I don't know if moombahton ever really had its time to be the sound at the time. It was never that prominent. But I guess it was, I don't know, it was fresh. This was sort of like pre-trap era, and it was sort of like dubstep, and then there was like all the other electronic subgenres, but then moombahton sort of sprouted up, and I don't know, it was just, I don't know where my head was at back then. I liked all sorts of stuff back then too, like I make all sorts of shit now, and I did back then. Like, I never really stuck to one thing. But when I was starting, I guess the scene I related to most heavily was the moombahton scene.
Right.
Probably because I felt like maybe at the time, like, dubstep was attracting like a crowd that just like still being in like school and stuff, like people that I didn't want to really relate to as much. So maybe I subconsciously forced myself to just find something kiddie corner so I could not be associated with certain vibes. Anyways,
is that kind of how you got into your own just kind of bass house, just bass music, almost like your own genre? It's like, you hear one of your tracks, you hear the crazy sound design that you have, and it's just, you can tell it's a Jameston Thieves track. Is that just you kind of just finding your own niche within bass music? Is that kind of the goal?
So starting off, I sort of always put in my head that like I'm building to something. I'm building to something bigger, and that's like, as I grow my knowledge, it's going to hit a point where my knowledge for the art of production and music in general, and I'm always trying to constantly keep learning, and I've always felt like there would hit a point where there would be something that like clicks, and you feel like you're toned enough in all these different areas to really feel like you can sort of stand on your own in a sense. And from the beginning, I was always trying to make different genres and things to learn how that's made and what things and little techniques you have to do to pull off that genre as opposed to something else. So like if you really learn tech house and like really get into that, you're going to have an amazing sense of groove. And then if you go make whatever you want, moombahton or honestly, whatever, trance, you can bring that groove into that other genre. And I would learn things every time I'd make a new genre, and I would make it enough times to where I felt like, all right, now what I'm making is like competent in this arena. It's not just me pulling it off. And then trying to fuse all of those techniques together. So that's sort of, it's just a big mixing bowl, and I'm just experimenting. And I I feel like art should make people feel something. It doesn't matter what, but I just want to strive to make something that if it like, whether it's emotional or it's just like a crazy track, there's something about it that in my head, if I'm releasing it, it like, it did something for my emotional circuits that I felt like it was worthy of putting out.
Do you have an emotion in mind when you're making these tracks? And do you, think to yourself, okay, I want, the audience to feel this way about this track? Or is it kind of just happen just organically?
Yeah, in my case, I mean, I guess sometimes I can know where something's going. Like the intros got like, I don't know, a major to minor like key transition and like an augmented chord. I know that the drop's not going to really evoke anything too bright, but I can't really say that I put that mindset out most of the time, because usually I'm just experimenting and then some cool stuff happens and then it's like, oh, that I don't know, it hits me somewhere. Mm-hmm. And then I'm like, all right, this is it. And I know I could go through like 700 different like sounds and like fucking with the synth for 10 hours, but like when it happens, I always know. I catch it sometimes.
I feel that's really important. I feel like a lot of music, especially today, doesn't have that emotion. Artists aren't really looking to evoke emotion in others with their music, which, in my opinion, I think is kind of the essence of music and really art. How do you feel about the music that's being put out today, specifically in the EDM world?
While to a degree, I can agree with what you're saying. I didn't say that it has to make you feel emotion. I just said it should just make you like feel something. Like even if it's like you being like, oh fuck yeah, like you're listening to Chief Keef or something and you're like, fuck yeah, I don't give a fuck. I'm a fucking badass. Mm-hmm. More money, whatever. Like, just that vibe. Like, it's fun to listen to. Like, I like listening to rap music sometimes like that when I'm like driving. You just feel like cool for a second or something. I don't know. Just feel something.
Right.
I don't know that, but like ripping off like something. Not ripping off, but just like being generic and like trying to fit the mold. If someone's already heard it, then they're not going to feel quite as much when they hear it again. There's nothing like when you hear something for the first time and it hits you and you're like, what is this? This is so good. Like I'll have like Spotify playlists on or something, and I'll be like, if I'm doing like video work or something on my computer, and occasionally, some song I'll hit, and like, I don't know, it resonates with you so heavily, and I don't know. I want my music to do that. I don't want it to just sit in a stack.
Well, it definitely does. It definitely does that. And
that's a goal. Obviously, music is subjective. That can only, everyone can have their own opinion, and different people will feel different ways. But yeah, I try to say.
No, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. A big part of that, I feel like, is your sound design. That's what gives, the listener that, what the fuck, or this is awesome, feeling. How really do you approach your sound designing? Because it seems like, and like every single song that you have some unique sound coming in.
I like making sounds.
It's like you have like a unique sound coming in like almost every song. How do you go about creating, unique sounds? Like, what are some techniques that you use, or how do you approach it?
It's tough. I ask myself that every time I start another song.
So it's always, just trying to find a new avenue to make a new sound, whether that be just you downloading new synths or really anything.
I don't just download new synths. I buy all my software and what?
Well, we all do. We all do. I know. I'm saying that's great.
I do a lot of like computer, like Xcode stuff. I have respect for software developers. Anyways, I shouldn't have said that. I don't do Xcode, but yeah, edit that out.
Yeah, I was about to say I can edit. I can edit stuff.
You should leave it in now.
Okay, yeah, we'll leave it in now. Just JK, guys.
Yeah. Hey guys, what you just heard was this brand new show called The Mirage, featuring Bim Fan Setson and Kurt. I'm Bim Fan and Daniel's Kurt. We're both playing fictional characters talking about a fictional topic, and neither of our personas nor does the Soundshock LLC take responsibility for what is said by members not affiliated directly to the company.
Absolutely. All
right.
glad we got that cleared. For legal.
You gotta clear it up
for legal reasons. I feel like I should do that before every episode. Just do a really long, like, legal type thing. Just read like a whole page. 20 minutes in, and now why sound works.
You should make everyone who listens sign an NDA because the tips are so good. You can't share them. If you share them with anyone, there'll be men in black on your doorstep shackling you to a dead lamb.
An NDA, that's a good one. You should definitely have an NDA for everyone that'll be included with the podcast. There'll be a have to sign. So
no miners, only mountaineers, baby. Only mountaineers. But I'm a cowboy.
Cowboy. Okay, so
all right.
I get asked this all the time. I get tired of answering it. Not so much I get tired of answering it, it's just we need an expert's opinion here. Mastering. Everyone wants to know, hey man, what's your master chain? What does it look like? What's your opinion on the loudness wars? What's happening with everything? I don't know. Do you master your own tracks, first off?
Yes, I've mastered everything I've ever put out besides Inside the Flames, Spirit Wars, and 24s.
Wow, so wow, that's a lot of songs mastered. Why?
Hundreds. I've mastered a lot of songs.
That is a lot. So why do you master your own songs? Why do you prefer to do them over having a mastering engineer do them?
Sort of early on, I got Ozone and I took a long time learning it. It was one of the first things that, like, before I even really understood synthesis much, I knew my way around Ozone. And I just had a really good idea of how to get something pretty fat and pretty loud. And also it was like a little bit further back in the day, and I feel like it was like a little harder to do back then. Like now with like Maximizer and Ozone 8 and that DMG audio, I can't think of Limitless.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, there's just like some fucking beasts now that make it a lot easier to get a really nice sounding loud mix. But I could do it in Ozone 5 really well, and I got songs signed to like sort of smaller labels, coming up, and they'd always be like, all right, and send us a pre-master for our mastering engineer. I'd always get it back, and I felt like, wow, this is so cool. There's going to be like a real mastering engineer on this. And then it comes back and it sounds like just not how, like, I don't even like it anymore. It does not sound how I wanted it to sound. And so I just spent time to make sure I could get my shit as loud as like Skrillex. I mean, that's a stretch. Just like, who knows? Whoever I was listening to at the time, not a Strom, or et cetera, like whoever, I'd put their shit in and just be like, all right, or I would burn mine onto a CD, because I had these old CDJs that just take CDs. They don't have USB. I would burn my song onto a CD, and I would do a mix, and I would mix for like, this is hilarious, because I hardly ever like DJ by myself anymore, but I would mix for like 20 minutes, and then I would like drop my track at like 25 minutes in, and it was like, there's all this buildup. Let's see if this shit lives up to the hype. And most of the time you're just like, no. But then eventually you get some, and then it gets easier to get those, and yeah, it's just getting better.
So are you mastering your tracks loud now?
I master my tracks less loud now than ever.
What's less loud? I feel like that could mean, different things for different producers, like RMS, like LUFS.
Oh yeah, well, less loud, like the masters are a little less compressed, and you get a little less loudness units.
Okay. Are you using like multiple limiters to kind of craft your sound on the master channel? Like, what are you usually using on this? You mentioned that you used like an earlier version of Ozone. Are you still using earlier versions of Ozone, or are you using like the latest?
Well, if I'm mixing my own stuff, then I'm always using Ozone 5 on the master, and then I go into Ozone 8 maximizers too, usually.
Oh, so you're using 5?
Ozone 5.
Oh, wow.
For the legwork.
Really?
There's nothing like vintage gear.
It is like vintage though. 5.
Yeah, shit's
at this
like,
point.
It's like probably 10 years old.
It's digital vintage.
Yeah. But honestly, no, it's just like I dialed this shit in so well a long time ago, and I always produce with it on it. So I've just like grown accustomed to like working with it on, and it sounds good. So I've never changed it. So I still Ozone 5. But sometimes if I'm mixing stuff for other people, they haven't like mapped the frequencies out the way that I do, where essentially just like my sub is always going to be peaking the highest and then sort of work its way down to the highs, or try to keep it smooth even while I'm working, just so I make sure everything's in a nice place. There's no surprises.
And you said you're using multiple maximizers from 8 after you do the most of the legwork with the Ozone 5?
Yeah, sometimes 1, sometimes 2. Usually it'll be like 1 around 5 or 6, -5 or 6 on like balanced algorithm.
So are you keeping like your instruments in your track like at specific numbers, since you kind of have that Ozone 5 chain kind of set? Or like, how do you kind of go about that? You said you had your sub fairly consistent, right?
Well, it's more the shape. I don't worry about the numbers until I already have the limiting on it, and then I know what numbers I want.
Okay.
But before it's mastered, there's no point to even look, because the mastering is going to change the levels all anyways. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you're really good at mastering, like Dark Art, shout out to that dude. he mastered Inside the Flames and 24s and Spirit Rose, blah blah. But he's so good. That's a different story. But for someone like just like a kid in their bedroom with Ozone.
So what curve are you looking for then? You said you really look more at a curve on the frequency analyzer. What shape are you looking for?
Just something that is highest on the left and close to lowest on the right, but not too far off. You know what I mean?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, so like this.
If you're looking at a spectrum analyzer,
Yeah,
just a slight tilt down.
Right, the sub's higher
Right.
and tilts down.
Yeah, sub's highest, tilts down. And there's like obviously there's friction within that distance, but we'll man the storm.
Are you one of those producers that takes forever mixing their tracks? That just agonizes over everything?
I used to be.
What happened? You just like, I'm done, agonizing over it.
I don't know. I wish I had an answer to that. I just had a point. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I don't know, because I was so caught up in it all the time, and then eventually something like flipped. I would spend 100 hours, 200. No, not 200. I'd spend 100 hours like mixing something.
Oh wow,
and
that's a long time.
Trying to get like an entire like week, like 12, 13 hours a day on the same mix down. I mean, you were with me in San Francisco.
Yeah,
you knew I would do shit like that.
You definitely mixed down some stuff for a very long time, and I was like, "But what are you doing?"
Yeah,
just like did so many versions and everything.
Everything had to I just had to timbre mix everything, and it takes so much time, and it was cool. But like now, the stuff that I get not doing that, I used to have like 10 sends in every track, like every session that just were like my template, and I would use all of these sends, and my master chain had like 7 plugins on it, and now it's like there's a lot of shit I don't even EQ. There's a lot of shit in my projects now like I don't touch. They're just completely on their own. I don't even think about EQing them, but I'm like, it sounds good. This is like done. I'm not gonna go around and like create problems. If it serves the purpose and gets across like that feeling or that thing that makes you feel something, that's what it's about. It's not about I don't know
how well your snare drum is mixed.
Well, and the thing is I could spend a week on something, and I could like there's songs where it's like, no, that doesn't, like, the snare drum does not even sound that good. I could make something like in a day right now and just pick a couple better samples and not I don't know, like you can trick yourself into thinking that the longer you work on it, the better it's gonna get, but sometimes you just
end up destroying the mix.
You could destroy the mix. You could just be stuck in a loop of changing little things that like no one's gonna appreciate besides you. But if that can get you to listen to your own tunes, then hey, so be it.
I feel it. I always tell producers this. If you have good sound selection, you have a good arrangement, your melodies or whatever bass line you're working with, is compelling and emotional, and you volume mix these sounds, your track is kind of already gonna sound mixed. I feel like that's one of the most underrated parts of production is just sound selection.
Yeah. I think sounds are funny too, man. I like the little giggle there. Yeah, sounds pretty freaking groovy, brother. But yeah, honestly, sound selection is it's the most important thing. I think it's more important than being really like mixing really well. Like, there's so many examples of people who make really fucking cool music and have no technical knowledge, but they have a really, really good ear, and they just pick sounds that work together. And it's like, you don't even have to mix it. You could just, if the sounds really work together, there's not a lot of work to do because they already work. And the sharper your ear gets with being conscious of what's going on, what space you can and want to fill, and just you become aware of those things, and your sound selection gets better, maybe to the point where you get so picky you'll never pick another sound again.
There needs to be a bigger delay on that.
You'll never pick another sound again.
There you go. That was better.
Yeah. It's just, I don't like to keep the long one on because I think it's harder to understand talking.
Oh, yeah. I gotcha. But
it's my fault for not switching it in time because that was totally my goal, but I got lazy. Dude, did I tell you this broke?
Your Echo?
Yeah. It was like 3 weeks after I bought it, and the tape like jammed, and I was like, dude, what the fuck? And I looked online, and all the repair people, it's like $400.
Oh, wow.
Which, I mean, I would like probably do it.
How much did that cost? That cost like 1,000, right?
It's like 800.
Oh my god, 400 to repair? That's
yeah, but it's only because there's like 3 people in the world who
can do it
and are still alive. I was going through forums, and people were like referring to people, and then they'd be like, he's not with us anymore.
So you know it's an old piece of equipment.
Yeah, when like the top repairmen
are just dying off.
Cross to the other side. Yeah. But so I put my foot down, and I ordered a tape loop, and just like sat with the instruction book and learned how to fix a tape machine.
There you go.
Yeah, that was probably the most impressive thing I've done in the past 4 years, at least.
So really, the key thing to take away from this podcast of Why Sounds Works is really reading will actually pay off in the long run.
Yeah. You're gonna want to get some Bukowski. If you're really looking to read and you want to pay off,
Bukowski.
You're gonna want. You know what? If you're listening to this right now, grab your car keys, drive on down to the Ma and Pa local mart, grab you a bottle of whiskey, you grab you some Bukowski, and let's spend tonight in the bath reading Bukowski and drinking rosé.
Is that what you like to do when you're not producing? Is those sorts of activities, hobbies?
I definitely don't take baths. Hobbies.
Yeah, what do you do besides music?
All right. So hobbies, eh?
Hobbies, yes. For a music producer, hobbies.
I like exploring existential questions and philosophical thirst worms, and sometimes it's fun to golf.
Okay.
And I also like. I like my. I don't know. I pretty much like to do music stuff for fun. Or I like play guitar for fun, and I guess I don't get paid. Well, I guess I do for guitar I play on my songs.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's not a hobby.
Yeah, I guess you're pro then. You're pro guitarist.
No, I don't think. That's funny. That Jimi Hendrix rolls over in his grave. I like to play with the synthesizer. I like to play the drums and my didgeridoo and my recorder and my xylophone and my keyboards and my bass. My basses.
You have a lot of instruments.
I stack them up.
Can you play all of them pretty well? Like, are you just jam out? Like, what does a practice session look like for you? You're just like, oh, here's my xylophone. You just go over there and start hitting away.
Well, I mean, the xylophone or anything.
Just anything.
The only thing I don't know what I'm doing is I'm not good at the didgeridoo.
Oh, you actually have a didgeridoo?
Yeah.
I thought that was a joke.
You want me to grab it?
Yeah. I thought that was a joke. You really weren't kidding. When he said that, I was like, oh, he's just messing around with us.
Did you hear it?
Yeah, we all heard it. So has that made an appearance in your tracks?
Yes. Nothing that's out right now, but I used it. I used it in something, and it sounds so good. And the thing is, I didn't play it like a didgeridoo, because you play the didgeridoo from like a very low your diaphragm, and it's like a really slow buzz, like a
right.
But I played it like you would play a trumpet, where it's higher up in your register, like a.
Okay, interesting.
And it makes like this really weird. It sounds like, I don't know. It's like a weird horn, but it sounds like it's like going through some weird like wet chamber reverb thing. And I just sort of like jammed out and like did like just like little like things, and then I just put auto-tune on it, and they ended up being so cool. Like, yeah, I was so surprised, but they sound amazing. And then I didn't even mic it twice. I didn't know how to mic a didgeridoo, but I was like, I'm just gonna stick I think I just stuck a condenser a couple feet back and like blew away for a couple minutes, and then it all sounded great.
Nice. There you go. A new way to play a didgeridoo for electronic tracks.
We revolutionary, baby, yeah.
So are you like just trying out a bunch of new instruments? Like, is this, if you're in like a creative rut, are you just like kind of just
midlife crisis?
What?
Midlife crisis? Is this where you're getting at?
If you're in a midlife crisis, do you recommend trying new instruments?
I always recommend trying new instruments. I think it's so fun to just explore. I love like going to Guitar Center or like music shops and picking up something, as annoying as it is to everyone else. I'm not obnoxious and loud, but like I'll pick up a banjo and I'll see if I can do with the banjo. But you know, when you're recording, and the art of recording really has a big experimental factor to it, and like I would love to have a ton of it, like instruments I don't even know how to play, but just sitting, you set up microphones and you just mess around on them for long enough, and you're gonna find something that
that you can use in your tracks.
makes you, yeah, like makes you feel something, and then you're like, all right, now I can run with this. And like it wasn't intentional, but you know, just exploring that new ground can be really inspiring.
I feel like that's always going to happen. I mean, if you're an artist, it's like you need to experiment. It's like a never-ending experiment, really, being an artist.
Yeah, and the trippiest part is you're sort of like experimenting with how to keep yourself. I'm trying to think of how to describe it, and maybe this is just personal to me, but I feel like you're experimenting, but you're also like experimenting with ideas of like what the overall like bigger picture behind what you're doing is, and it all is like all constantly evolving, so many different assets and sides, and you're sort of in the middle of one big experiment that you found yourself in, and you're realizing how intricate it is.
I mean, is that you know, compared to other producers, I mean, your tracks, you know, have such unique sound design, and it's always varying. It's never the same sound. Is that kind of, you know, why you do that? Is it excites you and it keeps the experiment going? You don't like being, you know, pigeonholed into one specific sound?
Yeah, exactly. You know, if I make a song with I just feel like if I was like, all right, that sound was dope, let me grab that and like milk 3 or 4 out of this, I feel like I'm cheating people. Like I'm taking people to be dumb. Like if you want, like, I don't know. I feel like everything is a new experiment to a new realm, and I'm trying to reach that, and that's where I get fulfillment. I don't get fulfillment from like knocking out another one. It's about like being able to dive into the world that is that song and, you know, like pull it off. Because so often that's where you fall short, is you got the world, but you can't pull it off. So when you pull it off, it feels awesome, and you created the world, that world, you're God for the day, and then you start another song, and you go back to being a rat in the sewer.
You know, there's so many...
Where you belong.
You know, it's so common, like today. People just milk sounds, milk just whole arrangements, milk certain genres just relentlessly. I feel like there's just one big repeat button for some producers. They just never really evolve. Do you think that's like a problem in this today's scene?
My friend, we've been on the repeat button since the Beatles. I'm not joking. But I know what you mean within this realm. And honestly, I don't know. Like, it is what it is. I can't I'm not them, so I don't know what they're thinking. I like when people keep me on my toes, like artists that I follow. I like when they keep me on my toes. Mm-hmm. But that's not true for everyone, and everyone's entitled to like what they want.
I feel like when you're starting out producing though, like if you're going down that whole experimental route and finding this new sound, you know, I'm going to make the new genre. It's like you never. I feel like learning other songs, you learn the basics. Copying other songs, mimicking other songs. How did you start to improve as a producer? When did you realize, okay, my productions are starting to sound professional?
I don't know. That's a tough one, but I want to retrace our steps very quickly to when you're starting out and you're trying to find that new sound and that new like unique. If you're starting out, what I would recommend is make 5, 10. Make 15. Whatever number in between those or over them, but no less than like trap songs, and then bass house, whatever piques your interest, dubstep, synth wave, witch house, happy hardcore, whatever you want. You're gonna have to learn how to make that style, and there's certain techniques in every genre. And if you're starting out and you want to create like that new sound, like right now, all the new sounds are just combinations of other sounds that exist. So the way you get to a new sound is by being able to make a lot of different types, and then blending them together in ways that someone hadn't done, and then giving it a clever name.
Is it kind of how you kind of progressed and really built up, I guess, your production toolkit and arsenal by, making many different songs in specific genres and taking away things and kind of, melding it into your own hybrid type track?
Oh yeah. I've literally been like all over the map, like inside of DAWs, from like recording like metal bands to making world music, to rap songs, to Norwegian throat mafia.
What?
No, not the last one, but I haven't.
I was waiting to call out BS on the last one.
I guess I haven't done that much, but but it was natural to me. I have such a short like attention and interest span. I get like sick of things if it's like too often, and so I can't really listen to the same genre over and over, and I get bored. And then that really translates creatively, because the second I finish the second I'm like, oh, I just made like this awesome like melodic house tune, I'm like, time to make a fucking squelchy drum and bass. I've like, it's like a polar opposites rather than like meeting in the middle.
I gotcha.
In a way. So that's why it can be a little hard to predict.
Did you have any specific like tutorial sites or anything? Like, how else did you learn? You produced a lot. Were you watching a lot of tutorials when you were learning?
Yeah, it's real interesting because I couldn't tell you like what one of them were, but I watched videos all day. I finished my last 2 years of high school online, and I was already like starting to produce at the time, and so I would have my school open in one tab, and then I'd have Ableton in another tab, and I would like, my school only took like an hour out of the day, and the rest of the day I would just watch like Ableton videos. And what I would do, which was the most valuable thing maybe that I did that's actually practical for other people, is learn a skill and then just spend the day like just like overusing it, sort of like just drill it in so you know it so well, use it constantly. Like if you're like one day, like this was like a good example for me, that's like a real example. Like I watched Culprit's master class at maybe Point Blank or somewhere like that. Well, I bought it one day when I was living in Colorado, and he like does a bit like segment on glitches and like different ways to make glitches, and so I basically stayed up that whole night and just like went into sessions that I had and added glitches, like as many glitches as I could, and like using every technique from the video to like and then trying to build on them too. So like adding more things that weren't there, so it sounds like, I don't know, different, just trying to create my own lane in that sort of effect, even though you wouldn't, it's not that discernible. But so then by the end of that day, it was like, all right, well now whenever I want to like, you know, do glitches and stuff, I have this toolkit, and I spent all this time like drilling it in my brain. Like it's in there. Mm-hmm. And you know, you have to like make sure you keep up on things. You can forget how to do stuff, which is weird. But yeah, I think just like learn a skill and apply it until you are 100% confident you know it, and then watch another video, apply that skill, and eventually before, like way before you'd even think, you'll be like, wow, I actually have more than enough to put the pieces together.
I feel like that's, you know, such a huge part of like the ear training aspect of it. It's like, you know, what's, you know, one technique sounds like, and it starts building on top of each other. And like you said before, you know it, you have all these techniques that you could use, you know, they're at your disposal. You know, kind of where you're at now. I mean, are you watching tutorials at all?
Most of the tutorials, yeah, I watch tutorials all the time. I'll watch like, I spent a day, last week, on negative harmony, which I'm still trying to completely add as a tool. Mm-hmm. I understand it on paper to a pretty alright degree, but you know, applying it, it's tougher, and like having it at my disposal where it's like, oh, I can use this whenever, is tough because it's such a weird thing. Mm-hmm. It's such a weird phenomena. You're basically going to a different key, but it's like a shadow of the other key, so it sounds familiar. So you can like leave the key and then go back, and it's just like it's like it's crazy. With Jacob Collier does really good explanation video, and then you can find people who explain his explanation video, and then work your way up from there. I definitely did. Well, I'll watch videos on, but that doesn't mean I won't watch dance music ones. I just watched a Claude Von Stroke masterclass the other day, like a couple of days ago. Yeah, I still watched it.
Mm-hmm, nice. So, you know, I feel like a lot of people don't understand how much time it takes to produce and how much time it actually takes to get good. I'll get people message me all the time, and I'm sure you do too. You know, their music isn't quite there, and they're like, you know, what's the one thing that I could do to, you know, get to that professional level? Like how long have you been producing, and like how many hours a day do you produce?
So that's a dynamic question.
Is it? I thought it's kind of a numbers thing. So that's pretty non-dynamic. That's pretty
yeah, but there's variation in these numbers.
I mean, you can create a mean, add them up, and divide by how much. Okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead. That's literally the most math major thing you could fucking get out of here. What was the question? Sorry, I can't get over that. Create a mean.
Dude, I learned that like elementary school.
A la mode.
Mean mode. And median. Yeah. Median.
There
you go. So how many hours a day do you produce?
Oh, you asked when I started.
Or that
All right.
too. That too. Like, how many years have you been producing for?
All right. So, on paper,
On paper.
about 9 years.
9 years. Okay, a while. And you're 23 now, right?
23 now.
So you started pretty early
14.
on.
Yeah, my mom drove me to this place to do production classes.
Really?
But we would record bands.
Oh, nice.
And then I got like a DAW, or I'd like Mixcraft, and we would use Pro Tools there. We didn't really do that though so much. We would mostly do like learn how to mic stuff, and like we would also play. We would be the bands we recorded. So there was like 8 of us, and 4 would engineer for the night and record the other 4, and the other 4 would either like usually we'd just like put a jam together while they're setting stuff up, and then we'll record the jam, and then like there was like a guy there who was like sound engineer and producer, and then he would like help us out or whatever, show us how to do things better.
So you've really done a lot with music. You know, just listening to your music, like like just the recent tunes that you released, like you wouldn't think that, oh, this artist, you know, as a kid he was, you know, recording bands. He's got a didgeridoo in his, you know, room, experimenting with all these different, you know, genres, Norwegian, gangster, whatever.
Norwegian. Oh shit.
Yeah, I forgot.
Anyways,
It was so ridiculous that you couldn't remember it. Yeah, people don't realize. Yeah, you know, I've interviewed other producers, and the really good ones have, you know, a diverse musical background. They've experimented a lot. I feel like, I feel like that really comes down to the experimenting. It's like, in order to be in this kind of field, you need to be comfortable with experimenting and changing. Would you kind of say that's kind of been your path?
dude, I mean,
That's been the one constant, I guess.
if you put art as your first passion, you are in a never-ending experiment for the rest of your life.
There you go.
Like, so, yeah, I think if you can embrace the experiment, and you know, if maybe that comes through in your art, if you're channeling that essence, but if you can embrace it, then it's not so bad.
How many hours a day do you produce?
Yeah.
I just want to get this across because, you know, you've released on what? You released on Owsla, you've released on Armada, you've released on, you know, what other big labels have you released on? Like Dimmock, and, you know, a bunch of others. And I don't think kids these days realize how much time it takes to get to a certain level in production. Everyone wants it now.
Right. So lucky enough for me, I was going to high school, and then I decided to do it on my computer, and so then I'd be at home like all day, and everyone else was at school. There was literally no one, like I couldn't even text, people wouldn't even text back at school, you know. There was like no distractions, so I would just sit and I'd have hours, and eventually it just got to the point where it was like I knew it was my new life to wake up, and I'm spending at least like, I mean, I already would spend all day on music. That's the thing, is like I would, even back in the day when I would like, you know, shittily record a drum set and like a guitar and make like a pirate rock song, which I totally did. And I had friends, like that's all we did. I didn't have a lot of friends. Like all my closest friends were musicians. So when we hung out, we played music, or we'd record music and stuff. So, but eventually it hit a point with like the production stuff where I knew that like I don't know. I really wanted to do it, and I really wanted to get good at it. And I knew that if you want to get good at something, then it's all you do. I guess that's however my brain was wired. So then it was basically like, all right, I'm getting up, and the only thing on my to-do list since then has been, to get ideas out and
Just work.
call my friends every once in a while.
Man, I remember in Pyramind, I mean, you used to work relentlessly on music. And, I remember the people around, the people going to that school, we could tell that you were going to make something of yourself in the music industry. We could see it. Just the sheer amount of work that you put into it. Personally, I was actually pretty inspired by how much work you put into stuff.
Well, thank you.
I couldn't believe that you just not sleep some days.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God. I like wake up the next day and you just be working on the same song. I'm like, did you sleep? Like, no.
If it's happening, I couldn't go to sleep even if I went to bed. Like if everything's working, like a lot of days nothing works, but then certain days everything was working, and if you stop, then it's over and you have to wait for the next day for everything to work again.
Right.
That's I don't know if I'm insane or if everyone has a sort of experience like that, but that's totally my experience. So my lack of sleep is always like, other people should be happy when it's happening because it means that something's working.
Right.
And that's what's kept me up, and things are going well because, I have no problem going to bed early when everything's shitty. No ideas. Although back in the day, and this is definitely worth for anyone listening who's just starting off. I said that I'll go to bed early when the ideas aren't coming. That's I don't really do that much, but occasionally, and that's also now. And usually, like, I don't know, I have everything in order that I need to take care of, and I'm on track with what I need to do, and I'm not still like grinding to get my sound up to a certain level. When I was starting, my whole philosophy was that there was like no such thing as writer's block, and there's no such thing as like there was no excuses. Mm-hmm. Like I would, and if an idea didn't come, then I would try the next one, and if it didn't come, then I would keep trying, and I would just always make sure that I would essentially flip the clock. When I was in Boulder and San Francisco, and I spent about honestly, pretty much through LA, but LA, there was a little bit more days to like go out and do things.
This was like a 3-year period, right? About 3, yeah. About 3 years,
3.5, whatever. But it was like every single day. If my sleep schedule is the most random thing. You could literally, they could use it to draw lottery numbers. But, so if I wake up at 4 p.m., then I'm gonna, drink some coffee or like a kombucha. I'm gonna like maybe play guitar or piano for a little bit, just like do like the morning stuff I would do then, and then starting on like the like beginning of the next hour, I'm working until that time 12 hours later.
Mm-hmm.
So 5 a.m., 5 p.m. sort of thing. And I would do that every day with the exception of, I mean, even if I had classes, I would get home from classes at like, 8 p.m. and be like, all right, well, I guess no sleep tonight because I have to make a song that's in my head, but I also have to be up at 9. So it's either I like lose this idea and then just like get anxiety about it and get like 3 hours of sleep anyways, or just stay up and get some Phil's coffee, ginger snap. I really like Phil's coffee ginger snap with almond milk.
Shout out Phil's.
Yeah, this brings me to an important point. How sound works is brought to you in part by Phil's Coffee. When you're waking up and you got no energy, you need a buzz, and you need it from Phil. Ain't no one got the stuff like Phil. Yo, I haven't had coffee this one since 1912.
I feel like we could actually send that to Phil's Coffee and you'd somehow get like a commercial out of that, some sort of radio commercial, possibly a actually TV commercial out of that. That was good. That's what I'm trying to say.
Thank you. Thank you.
I feel like that's a second career option that you could explore.
And to anyone over at Phil's, I won't turn down a free cup. Just offer,
We're like, are there Phil's only in like Northern California? Where are Phil's Coffee actually?
There's Phil's in LA.
Is there?
Yeah.
Is it a California thing?
I think so. Honestly, that's a good question. I'm pretty curious.
Yeah.
I feel like I saw a Phil's. It would be a stretch to say that I actually would back my word on this. I don't think I do, but I felt like I saw a Phil's in Portland.
Okay.
Phil's Coffee. I have to know this.
I don't know why that really just bothered me for a second.
I think they're all Oh wait, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Washington.
Okay.
D.C. D-Sizzle.
D-Sizzle.
Baby.
I've never heard that.
That's weird.
That is weird.
All the way across the country, you have to get like different suppliers and stuff.
That is really weird.
But you gotta get the president that cup of J.
It's true. It's true. That goes to show you how important Phil's Coffee is.
It's just, I'm not gonna go to Pete's. What am I? A fucking sewer rat? Hey.
Dude, Pete's is actually pretty good. I used to work at Pete's.
I would get the dude. The cold brew is crack. It's literally fucking crack. I would get that shit, and
just the iced coffee.
Dude, I felt like Pinky in the Brain.
It's
every time I drink that shit.
It's pretty strong. Like Pete's coffee is like stronger than like the normal American coffee.
You had some cool jobs. Remember when you worked at that one cafe?
Yeah, that was Pete's.
Oh yeah, but you would get free food.
Oh yeah, that was a Pete's and a Specialties. Specialties was actually pretty good. It was like a combo. That was a pain in the ass though, because they wanted me to work Specialties too, and like Pete's was obviously way easier, knowing how to make drinks and stuff like that. I never made sandwiches and shit, but like they would ask me to like deliver stuff, and it's like I just want to make some fucking coffee.
Yeah,
like fuck off.
No, I feel you, dude. I mean, it's a completely different story.
It is. It really is. That's a whole other life. And
like food, I don't know. No, I mean, like if I'm hired as a barista or like a drink mixer,
right.
I'm not touching the food because I don't even like to smell food. I hate smelling food when I'm not hungry. And so like working
around food all the
time. Whenever I've worked at restaurants, it drives me insane. I just feel sick all the time.
Right.
You know what? I just got the idea.
Huh.
You should start a second YouTube channel where it's daily diet, daily workout, and motivation. I feel like you would be good at that. You'd be good at a motivational channel. You just be like, hey guys, it's Daniel. You know, I woke up today and I was like, really don't feel like waking up. But, you know, that's when you got to get your hiney out of bed, turn that shower water to ice cold blue, and, you know, get that day started. So I got myself some bone broth protein here with, I've got a plant-based kale superfood mixture that I'm just going to mix together in there along with some apple cider vinegar. We're going to stir this up and saute it just a minute or so. Then we're going to put it in the blender. That way it gets a really nice smoky flavor when we add the mustard. So I go and I take my shower while that's sitting preparing. Maybe drink a kombucha in the shower if it's one of those days. Anyways, so the whole time I'm in the shower, you guys, you know, my mind's thinking, another day. Do I have to, you know, make another video on side chaining? You know, I've done 4, but you know, this is what the world needs. So I got to get myself in the mindset. When I'm in that shower, I tell you, when I'm in that shower and the cold water is hitting my body, all I think about is my workout and what I'm going to do to make me better each and every day. And, you know, that's what it's really about at the end of the day here, you guys. And you see me, I'm in my towel right now. My shower water's on, but I got so inspired that I needed to share what I was thinking with you. And, you know, all I have to say is if I can do it, you can do it too. And then cuts. And then you got your shake. Hey, guys, got dressed. New beanie, right? Got this one from me mum. Now we're going to add the mustard into my bone broth shake. That's my own personal flavor. And then we're going to mix it up there. Once we drink that down, we're going to head out to the gym. I hate being sober. I'm a smoke. Hey guys, just got to the gym. Looks a little crowded today. Looks like I'm going to have to show some of these bad boys up, eh? Just kidding. Walk in. Oh, hey Corey. Didn't know you were here today. Hey, Strongin. Spot me, man. Oh no. I have to use the restroom. I got a wee. Oh, Strongin. You've always had the tiniest bladder. Hey guys, usually I don't like to take my vlog camera in the bathroom, but there's an ex-girlfriend I used to date in high school here, and she doesn't seem to want to get off the elliptical. I think I gotta split back home. Cut to car. Take you to the candy shop. Oh, hey guys. I'm just driving back home. Couldn't get the workout in today because my ex was there, and, you know, I don't like awkward. So, I mean, let's just say it's a cheat day. There's a Dunkin' Donuts. I'll grab a couple munchkins. Maybe an iced coffee with vanilla. You know, we'll call it a cheat day. Won't happen again the next day.
What do you use for pre-drops? Like, what's like the craziest thing you used? And don't say my voice from Prague.
I know, I never actually. I mean, what did I do with that song? I don't know. Fuck, the craziest thing. That I don't know.
What do you usually do? Do you usually just like throw in some one-shot samples?
Well,
the stereotypical one-shot samples.
No, it's fun. It's nice that you asked. So lately, like, I either record vocals for something myself or work with a vocalist, and in which case the pre-drop is usually going to be related and it's going to be like from that source audio. But what I've been doing a lot for songs where they're not like vocally driven is I have this module on my synthesizer that picks up FM radio signals, and I'll scroll through, and dude, you'd be fucking surprised. The radio is 75 to 80% commercials. The only channels that like I go to that have music are the classical stations. There's 2 of them. They always have music playing. All the other ones, it's always a commercial, and then occasionally like Smells Like Teen Spirit or something will play. But I'll just like, it's running through a granular processor. It's just like a granular resynthesizer in real time on the modular synth, and I'll modulate the voices of commercials and record the commercials, so it'll be like or NPR. I'll put NPR on while they have interviews with people, and then I'll like pitch shift the voice and stuff and try to get it to sound like a little trippier, and then I'll just like, I don't know, I'll just like chill out and let the interview sort of record, and then I'll listen to it and I'll get like certain phrases. Like there's some good ones. Like I got this one that's like this flabbergasted British lady who's just like, what is this sound? And it's like I'm still like, I have it in my holster just to use at the perfect time. And I have a guy talking about he lived on a potato diet for like months or something.
Are you serious?
I sort of gotta have it, but it's not super usable, but it's hilarious. I saved them, so I'll go through at the end and I'll like chop out phrases that are like, all right, that could make some sort of sense or something. And I have a bunch of phrases from it saved. They're pretty funny.
So like the radio, I never really thought of that. That's like gold for pre-drops.
With commercials and NPR on it, just like talk radio. The fucked thing is that this module can't get AM radio, or else that is the ultimate
right
pre-drop heaven, because it's just talking all the time, and people who are fired up about shit on AM radio too. And that's what you want for pre-drops.
Right. People
like
who are fired up. Yeah. I see
like
the NPR. That's
NPR is. They're just, it's so low key. They occasionally get excited, but NPR, a bunch of sleepy Sallys.
Do you listen to the radio anymore?
If I'm in LA, I listen to, I forget exactly the station. I have it saved in my car, but it's like 88.5 or something, 87.5. It's college radio, and they just have students come in and DJ. So it's something different every single time. And like one of my good friends and we have like a unspoken rule where like when we're in the car together, that's what plays. And, like if we're in the car with anyone, that's what plays. And one of the like fair points about it is that you have no idea what it could be. So it's just like, this is our fair game. And literally one time we listened and it was Swedish noise orchestras. And the guy played an hour of Swedish noise orchestras. The dude after him went straight into like warehouse German techno. Sometimes you'll go on there and it's like mariachi. Sometimes it's like black metal. Sometimes it's just straight punk all day. Sometimes like literally anything besides mainstream music. It's just all like crazy, weird, niche college radio shit. I listen to it all the time out there. It's my favorite thing.
Really? I'll have to listen to that. I'm about to go to LA. What is it? 88 point.
I'll send the for sure one to you. Remind me, but 87.5, 88.5. I'll figure it out though. Tonight.
Okay.
I'll let you know.
Yeah, college radio is all over the place, man. I used to DJ in college at the radio station.
Did you do like progressive house?
I did progressive house, electro house, all that stuff. The Pronic Beat. That was my show.
Would you do transitions or would you let the song end?
Oh hell yeah! No, I would
So you were like mixing.
Oh yeah, I was mixing live.
That's a dream come true for
I
an
was
aspiring
legit.
college DJ.
Oh yeah, no, it was. I was
Dude,
no, I was
yeah, I
legitimately
would've
doing it.
loved that.
I was mixing while I was speaking over with stuff, about the song, who it is, that sort of thing while I was mixing, and then I would just, also just go on the crazy mixes where I do as fast as I can. So, mix it up between talking and mixing fast. So yeah, that was a dream. But I remember just all the other students, it was all over the place.
Yeah.
Like you said, they're playing, it could be punk one day, then switch on right on over to, German techno house or just some crazy off the wall music. That's what's great about like radio stations like that. It's an explosion, a complete explosion of music. I mean, do you normally listen to like a lot of different music?
Yeah, I'm pretty much as sporadic as it gets, and it's like to a point where it's almost weird. Like I like too many things. Like I know, and especially coming from more band and like specifically like punk rock background, it's like people are very close-minded. It's like we like what we like and this is like our shit. And I like grew up in that, and I was always like, yo, I mean, I like this, but I'll also go listen to, like anything else. Like I would go to like anything, go watch world bands at the musical instrument museum, or like dive super deep into like Hawaiian reggae, and like everyone like around me is like doesn't get it, but like to me it's so fun to like explore. It's like I want to learn. I just like different types of music, and I get sick of things really quick. So it's like on the way to if I'm going to Office Max to get like soy sauce.
Do they have soy sauce at Office Max?
I don't know. If they don't, then I'm gonna have to get them to order it in.
I feel like they could, because Office Max, a lot of those places do have like a lot of food.
They'll have like
snack food and condiments,
like the Nutella stick packs.
Oh yeah, those are hot right now.
Skittles, they'll have
those
Skittles.
Are hot right now.
Yeah,
Skittles are always hot.
Yeah, they ain't never been cold. But so on the way there, I'll listen to like jazz fusion. I'll put on like Jaco Pastorius, like Weather Report, and jam out. And then on the way home, I'm listening to like UK grime hip hop about selling drugs. And then like I get home, and then I want to listen to like 432 Hertz binaural wave. It is that sporadic.
Really?
I don't know what it is. Like my brain.
You just need something new.
And I hope that's not like a strive for dopamine or something, because I don't like see it as that. It's just sort of like, I'm like curating the soundtrack to my life, and that sounds so funny. That sounds like something Kim Kardashian would say. It's like, so the reason why I need to pick, she like asked the Uber driver if they have an aux cord, and he's like, yeah, but it's in the trunk and we're on the highway. I don't want to have to pull over. I mean, your exit's 2 away. And she's like, well, the soundtrack to my life didn't include Guns N' Roses or whatever it is. Like, can you turn this off? I felt like I sounded like that. I didn't mean it like that. I just mean like.
Well, now that you said that, I feel like it did sound like that. But before you said that, it didn't feel like that.
Well, good. I wanna expose myself for the empty fake that I am. But to me, I don't know. I really enjoy instrumentation which I think a lot of people who I grew up with have less of a not a lot of people I grew up with. Most of my close friends are very much in the same boat as I am, but a lot of people in like the rock scene we grew up in, it was all just like, oh, raw emotion, and like that's amazing. I love that in music, but I also really love, listening to a 6-minute medley, like a jazz fusion thing, and hearing like a bass player work his way through 8 keys, seamlessly, and like just like masterful musicianship across the board, listening to like really good jazz bands. And I'm just enamored by, it's less of like a raw emotion thing and more like I'm enamored by the musicianship and like the cleverness, the way that someone who's really good never quite does what you're expecting, but like does one better in a way that you didn't think was, like they're constantly just like, oh fuck, I mean, you wouldn't have even thought of doing that, and like it's all in like real time, and it's just like it's like I don't know, that's a fun ride for me. And it's most fun when I don't know what to expect, and so exploring new types of music and latching on to like the instrumentation is like, fun. Like watching a TV show is fun.
Well, I feel like you do that in your music. I mean, it's so different. I mean, you may make bass music, but every song feels like its own entity, if you will. So, you're constant looking for exploring and, kind of just not staying put with one specific genre. It shows in your music. You can definitely tell.
I'm glad that shines through in a sense. I mean, I definitely try though to. It would be a lie if I was like, wow, I guess I guess it just rubs off on me. In a sense you could say that, because it's like I get inspired. So like I'll hear maybe something in like a jazz record and I'm like, that beat was so cool. How can I like make it work in something? And maybe I'll just end up like doing it for like part of a break or like a build up or something minor, but like I'm just always like I'm trying to bring in elements from things that aren't dance music, because I like don't listen to. I'm very, very, very like 1 out of every 10 times I get in the car do I put on dance music.
Really, it's just not something you listen to.
I don't ever. It's been a long time since I've like just tossed on some like dubstep. I mean, I'll definitely throw on drum and bass. So I don't know if this makes me an elitist now that I just said that, but if I am listening to dance music, it's like usually drum and bass or like halftime beats.
It's very European of you.
No, not the halftime. Well,
The drum and bass, I meant.
yeah, the drum and bass, sure. I mean, but
More
to
so.
me, it's the exact same tip I'm talking about, though. I'm enamored by instrumentation and like impressive skills, masterful musicianship. And where else are you gonna find that? What better place to find that in electronic music than drum and bass?
Very true.
Am I right?
Very true.
You know?
Drum and bass is a finesse genre.
Yeah, it's it takes a lot to get it right, and I have a lot of appreciation for it. I like to listen to it.
Do you produce drum and bass at all?
Yeah, I mean, I've made a few drum and bass tunes. The song I did for the Disney soundtrack was drum and bass.
Nice. So you did a Disney soundtrack.
I contributed a song for Disney's Tron video game.
Okay, nice.
So if you play the Tron video game, one of the levels is my song. It doesn't say my name, but yeah.
That's a pretty unique job.
Yeah, it was interesting.
How did you get that? Like your manager or anything?
Yeah. I'm a manager. Yeah, it was interesting. They sent like a long list of like criteria and stuff of like sort of what, like they gave like a BPM range, which was cool because I was like, you know, I'd always, if someone's gonna give me a BPM range, I'd definitely be pretty happy for it to fall within the drum and bass range, because now it's like, hey, I have no choice. This may take me 3 weeks with no sleep to get it to where I'm happy, but I'm all for it. You know, I like pushing myself, and drum and bass is always, you know, pushing yourself, especially because I'm by no means like a seasoned drum and bass producer. I just like listening to it. Made a few songs that I think are decent. I don't know.
So are you getting like other jobs? Like, so you of course have your artist project, Jameston Thieves, bass music. Are you producing for like, what other jobs do you get? And kind of how do you get them? Are you looking for any other jobs? Working with more video games, working with, you know, movies at all?
Well, I did some scoring work for a short film last year. I did the Tron thing. I've got a couple songs licensed in movies, so essentially they're taking songs I've already released as an artist and just paying to be able to use them in their movie. I have a song coming in the new Underworld movie. And then yeah, maybe a couple commercials, but
Nice.
yeah, those are nice because you don't have to do any extra work. And then on top of that, I have other work, like I do like lessons and sort of like mentoring things with people, and I like doing that. I've taught like music production for, I guess, like 4 or 5 years now, and I don't think I'm like a super conventional teacher, but
What do you mean?
I think I'm gonna like, I'll teach like fundamentals and stuff, but I feel like a lot of people don't really care, so I'm more there to just like show you what you want to know now. So rather than being like, okay, here's our first lesson, we're gonna go over how EQs work, I'm just like, hey, what do you want to know? And they're like, I want to be able to use Melodyne. Then, all right, then I'll record some like shitty vocal line or something on the mic, and then we'll sit and like tune it and like do everything you need to do to take a vocal from, you know, point A to like a pretty good sounding final thing. So it's very much more so, you know, I'm more of just like a open book in a sense. Like, people can ask me whatever. It doesn't even have to be production. You can just ask me questions. But so in that sense, it's like less structured. But if someone does want to learn in a structured way, I've definitely done that for like a job before, and like I still do it with some people, so I can do that. But typically it's just like, hey, we've got a couple hours, just whatever you want my input on, let me know.
Nice. It's always good to see other, you know, bigger producers, you know, helping out and, you know, tutoring other people and giving, you know, advice. And I feel like that's definitely needed in the scene to kind of, you know, spread, you know, good information, you know, kind of give producers new ways of looking at things.
Yeah. I mean, there's no better way to get good quick than to spend time around people like better than you.
Right.
Which is really hard with producing because it's such a isolated thing. You know, like the internet and stuff makes it not, but like really sitting down in person and like working with people who are really good, it's really rare that you get in situations where you're sitting down with other musicians and you're like seeing into their workflow and all of that. So I mean, that's one reason why I think like the, you know, podcasts with artists and like master classes and stuff like that are super cool, because it's almost like you're sitting down with them. But the only thing is, when you're actually sitting down with them, you can like ask questions and you know, you could tailor where that exploration goes, and that has its own value.
Mm-hmm. No, definitely. So I mean, you've taught producers of kind of all skill levels, yeah?
Yeah.
At this point?
I mean, I don't think I've taught anyone who... Yeah, I mean, I guess I did a class at CU Boulder on Ableton, and I prepared this big thing about, like, showing off sample manipulation in Ableton and how I could take, like, the sound of a drop of water and turn it into a kick drum and then turn it into a snare drum through like processing and effects, and then turn like that into hi-hats and then have a whole beat that I just made out of a raindrop. And everyone was sitting there staring at me like, how do you even like these people had never opened a DAW in their life, and I didn't know that they were going to be that beginner. These were people who were like thinking about maybe getting into music production, but I thought that they were all going to be like, you know, producers and people really into it. Funnily enough, Snails was there while I did this like class basically on sound design, and I like looked up and saw him. Like, he wasn't like watching, but he was in the same room. You could definitely hear it, and I was just like, oh my god. Fuck me. But
that's pretty funny.
Yeah,
bunch of like producers just thinking about getting into production, and then there's Snails watching
yeah,
glancing on over,
eating nachos. He was, but
so I mean,
so that was the most beginner, but I wasn't really teaching. I basically did that, like, sweat out all of the things I could have done better, and moved on.
Have you noticed have you noticed anything, like, at least when I review tracks or I do like a Q&A, there'll be kind of recurring themes in less experienced producers, from intermediate to beginners. Do you notice any like common problems in people's productions that you see more often?
I mean, it's sort of different depending on the people, but I guess, like, you know, I'll just an example. One thing I see a lot is like people can't necessarily hear width very well yet, so they don't understand like the overwhelming sides on certain things, and how like if you don't tame your sides, it really like it's hard to listen to, even though it makes sound cooler. But then also their sound won't come through in mono because it's like just serum, like with a delay, like a quick like 15 millisecond delay with like the feedback up and then like into a comb filter, into a flanger. So it's just all phasing. And so then once you put that in mono, there's nothing left. And like a lot of people will like, you know, try to get those crazy sounds or like open up a cymatics patch. And a lot of the cymatics, like not a lot of them, a couple of like cool cymatic sounds are like way too stereo to you know, even play in a club. They sound crazy though, and they know that anyone opening them up in a fucking DAW is not on a mono system, so it doesn't really matter there. But like you got to be careful about your width, or at least just like conscious of it.
So like what sounds do you choose to put super wide and what sounds you usually choose to put like mono then? Like how are you making that kind of just judgment call, I guess?
I like anything that is characteristic of the track to really shine through. So things that I will push to be more stereo are things like cymbals and hi-hats and ambient sounds and effects. I'll mess with those all day because they don't make the track what it is. Don't get me wrong, I'll have leads and I'll have like vocals and stuff in stereo, but if I'm really pushing width, like it doesn't matter if some of this disappears, so I'll like experiment more. That's mostly more of like I'll do that with hi-hats and like tambourines, like sibilant percussion.
And then you'll keep just really the meat of your track in mono, or at least
Not in
mono-centric.
mono. Yeah, I mean, I'll make sure that it's much stronger mono signal, you know? Like, there could be sides, like, but only there. The sides should only be there to enhance, not define. And with, like, the really crazy, phasey sounds, really all of that side information is defining the sound. It's not like adding, you know, sugar into the cookie. It's more like the cookie is based off of the stereo information. So then you're like digging yourself a hole by trying to, you know, make that work in mono.
Yeah, so many producers will just, at least, you know, more of the beginner and intermediate, will just push the sides as hard as they can. It seems like they feel like in order to get their sound fat, they need to make everything wide. But I feel like, you know, you kind of have an example that I like to use is, you know, you can't tell the depth if everything is wide. You need to have something narrow in order to really feel the width.
Yeah, it's definitely like a duality when like wide doesn't exist without narrow.
There you go. That's a good one.
but at the same time, when something is super wide and everything's really wide, if you listen to something that's like nice and centered and then you listen to that, it's weird. I don't know how to tangibly describe it other than it feels like I can't reach out and grab it. You know, when things are
super
like
wide.
Yeah, when things are like, or if there's just a track where too many things are mixed wide, it just feels like this weird, like I can't like hook onto it in a weird way. But like, you know, when something, even just like simple things that are just centered or just like more tactfully, they feel like you could grab them. I don't know how to describe it any other way.
You just get lost in the width forever.
It definitely, it's like hard to listen to a little bit, like super wide stuff.
I feel like, yeah, super wide stuff is just, yeah, you need to have that mono balance with certain elements. It's just, you gotta have it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, most clubs are still mono, so.
It's true. And you think about like a laptop speaker.
Or a phone speaker.
Or a phone speaker, which, I mean, think how many times your songs are played out on phones.
No, I know. When I look at my SoundCloud stats and I see that half of the listens are from iPhones.
Are they really?
That's one of the reasons why I was like, all right, I don't need to spend an extra week mixing this.
Have you mixed in mono at all? Have you experimented with that?
Oh, I always switch and make sure that like everything's coming through the way I want in mono and stereo. So I guess I mix in mono as part of the process, but I don't like just mix a song completely in mono.
Do you see any benefit in doing that?
Mixing a song completely in mono?
Yeah.
Well, it's not going to be mono at the end, no. Because why wouldn't... I mean, you can put it on mono, and then you can put it back to everything and make adjustments, and then go back to mono. Why do you have to keep it on mono the whole time?
You know, I'll always hear that producers will be like, oh yeah, I just mixed everything in mono. You know, that's the way to go.
Because their parents never loved them.
Ouch.
They say mono, but they mean mamo. That one's for the blooper reel. Just kidding. That one's for the highlight reel.
That one's definitely for the highlight reel. What about like that pink noise mixing? You ever get into that?
You know what? Bunch of fucking nerds, y'all are. Yeah, I totally got into it. Of course I did. I got into everything there is to get into. I did that. I have done that. I guess, I don't know. I either hit a point of trusting my ears more or giving way less of a fuck if people thought my shit was perfect. And you know what? I'm gonna, if what I made gets the message, not that everything I put out has a message, but it gets like the package, you know, like the feeling, the emotion, whatever I'm trying to convey. Like, as long as that's coming across and there's no problems that make it hard to listen to, then it's done.
I gotcha. Yeah, people are really caught up in all, as we mentioned earlier, the perfect mix, spending so much time on the mix, doing all these different techniques.
Sorry, go on. I don't want to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, one thing is, over time, I've gotten so much more picky with what,
that was smooth. That was a smooth transition right there.
Thank you. I'm just picky about what parts I keep, and typically when I make a part that I'm gonna keep, it sounds pretty good, and like it sounds like there's not much I have to do to it. I don't have to crunch my head on how I'm gonna mix this for it to work. It works when the part is made and I like tweak it a little bit, or else I'm moving on to another part. So I think when I was a beginner, one thing I would do is like make stuff and it would be like, oh, that's like pretty much what I'm going for, and move forward, and then come back and be like, well, now that I'm mixing it, I need it to sound like this and that. And like the reality is a lot of the things you're hearing in your head that you need this, like you want to make this sound like, isn't going to happen. That sound is just not really it, or I don't know, any combination of that. And so I think a lot of the time I would waste mixing things and trying to fix parts that weren't that good to try to make them work. I just spend now deleting more things and keeping things when I'm just like, it makes complete sense that it's there in a weird way. It's just like, yeah, this is what's supposed to be here, and it already sounds good too. So the ball's in your court. If you're not putting things in your music that like need to be fixed, you're putting it in there as you go. So if you hear stuff and it's not working, then like I'm a proponent of fixing it right away, like figuring it out and only adding things that are productive towards like this overall thing sounding good. And there's no point in working on something like ideologically and then going through and having to like sew up a bunch of loose threads to try to put this rag doll together that may never even look like a Cabbage Patch Kid. I think with the terrible analogy, I think you get what I meant, right?
No, definitely. I've listened to a lot of different podcasts with producers that, give great advice, go over tons of, helpful tips that you could take away. But the podcast that we had here, the kind of your mindset, how you approach productions, it's really the mindset. I feel like how you approach your songs and what producers should take away from this podcast. Sure, there were lots of, jokes going on here and there, but, how you approach music, the experimentation, the constantly looking to improve yourself, the time spent into productions, the purpose of writing music. I think that's what really matters. All the techniques and all the finding out how to mix and, doing your pink noise mixing, all that will follow, I feel, if you have the right mindset and you're kind of knowing why you want to make music. This is going to be it for this podcast. I want to thank everyone for listening. I would definitely listen to this podcast again and listen to what Jake is really talking about. Take note. As I said, I interview a lot of artists, and of course I get those EQ 100 hertz here or whatever, but it's really the mindset. That's what's going to make you a better producer. That is what is going to make you really, just a better producer. I went on a super long tangent there.
No, I mean, that was like a quarter of the length of half of a quarter of the length of some of mine, so you're good.
So that's going to do it for this podcast.
Except I am going on tour this summer. I can't announce anything specific yet, but keep your eyes peeled.
I would use the other mic to talk about where they could find you. That way we're not lost in the echo.
Hey, folks.
Another smooth transition.
Thank you. I am going on tour this summer. Go to jamestonthieves.com for dates or follow me on social media. Those should be announced pretty soon about the next one. I'm going to a bunch of places, so I will see you guys there. And if you see me, come say hi, and we can have a conversation just as weird, if not weirder, as the one here, but shorter.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Thanks again, Jake.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
I don't even need to end the episode. Let's just end on that. Say it one more time. With the echo, with the space echo.
All right.
Get a good delay on this one this time. Your best one. No pressure.
Hare Krishna. We done.
So that's going to do it for the second episode of Why Sound Works, the interview with Jameston Thieves. I hope you guys got plenty of tips, tricks, and really understand the mindset that is needed to progress with your musical productions from Jameston Thieves, as this is really the big takeaway from this podcast. And I hope you got a little comedic relief there. If you guys would like to hear a particular artist on the podcast, feel free to send me an email at daniel@soundshockaudio.com. That is daniel@soundshockaudio.com, and I'll get in contact with this artist. If this podcast helped you out in any way at all, or you just enjoyed the entertainment that the podcast provided, I would really appreciate it if you left a review and comment on iTunes, as if you found this podcast helpful or entertaining, I'm sure other people will as well. Also, be sure to check out the #1 spot on the web for the modern music producer, soundshockaudio.com, where all your music production needs are met, as there are free plugins, presets, samples, loops, and contact instruments, as well as the most comprehensive music production tutorials available, all on the site for you for free. So check out soundshockaudio.com. This is Daniel from the Why Sounds Work podcast. Until next time.